response? OH? Hi. So my name's Rebecca Jackson. I'd like to welcome you to the 7th, almost annual, Center for Clinical and Translational Science scientific meeting. We were originally funded way back in 2008. And at that time, we really used this venue as an opportunity to come together as a scientific community around new opportunities for collaborative team science research that could really transform or increase the trajectory of clinical and translational science. And so hopefully this year, we have our largest registration, almost 400 individuals and more than 100 posters that I certainly hope that you'll all attend and actively engage with the presenters. But one of the important things this year is to really build upon strengths across our entire university community and with our pediatric partner at Nationwide Children's Hospital to begin to really harness the power of big data across this university by using tools of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and in some opportunities within deep learning to really be able to take data, bring it to information, knowledge, and ultimately wisdom. The CCTS and the concept of this came up in the early part of the 2000s, and it really was a brainchild of the NIH and Dr. Zerhouni as the director of the NIH at that time. And one of the issues was that he understood that both the NIH, the NSF, and in fact academic institutions across the United States had great strengths in the areas of basic science, discovery research, clinical research activities actually at the bedside, and then community research. But what was really missing was that integration between these activities. And so how do we create kind of a discipline that moved things forward that really allowed us to work together in ways that we previously were unable to do, which is ultimately take the great discoveries like the Human Genome Project, computational biology, system science, and all of those areas, and significantly impact human health. And so we recognized very early on that in fact this wasn't a unidirectional process that went from the bench to the bedside to the community to public policy and that kind of dissemination and implementation science, but in fact it was multi-directional. So that when one looks at HIV, for example, that actually started in the community and recognizing that there seemed to be this immunodeficiency occurring that was unique, brought it back to the laboratory, were able to identify the virus, move forward in the development of a therapeutic, and now what was in fact a deadly disease has become a chronic disease that is managed very effectively with new therapeutics. And so that's the promise of translational science, to be able to actually all work together to bring our unique expertise together. But the problem is it does require a different set of skills in order to be able to do that. Different ways for us to communicate across whether these different areas within the translational spectrum. It also recognizes that this is a process that's slow, it's laborious, and so are there ways that we can enhance the efficiency and the effectiveness of moving things forward. And because of that, it really requires teams, and not just teams of investigators like basic scientists, engineers, public health officials, but it also requires our partners, our stakeholders in the community, whether that be industry and private sector, other government agencies, or in fact those that set the policies, the communities, patients, families, and communities themselves. And so it's really working together and thinking about these properties regarding team science. That's a critical component of what we do on an everyday basis. And so the goal of the CTSA program, which is the Clinical and Translational Award funded by the National Center for Advancing Translational Science, or the Center for Clinical and Translational Science here at The Ohio State University, which has been around since now 2006, is really to serve as kind of that translational research engine to actually move forward this transformative approach towards thinking about ways to more effectively do biomedical translational science. And so foundationally, we use things like informatic tools and new approaches, integrate this incredible ecosystem that we have of cores and other scientific resources across the university and nationwide, and then develop kind of the educational tools, resources, and others to move this thing forward. We do this when we think about it through three major pillars: to train and cultivate translational scientists to really be able to work together, to be able to move things forward, to enhance scientific innovation, and hopefully today we're going to continue to kind of fan the embers of that and thinking about how might we all work together as a scientific community, and then to innovate research processes, both to enhance quality, ethics, and efficiency, but also for methodologic development. That for us to be able to take the next kind of big leaps, we need to develop new methodologies, new ways to thinking, whether that's in study design or whether that's in fact in analysis or other types of programs, with the ultimate goal to create a sustainable environment, a sustainable collaborative group of individuals that move forward that can ultimately improve human health. So over the last almost 12 years, we're now in our third cycle of funding. So we're about a year and a half into our third cycle of funding. The NIH has supported the CCTS and the activities here across the Ohio State University with just under $100 million that have really been put into the hands of investigators to move forward and to really capitalize on these types of opportunities. One of the things that I hope that you'll have the opportunity during the meeting today and to talking to individuals across the Center for Clinical and Translational Science are what are resources that are available through the CCTS that could help each and every one of you to follow kind of your area of inquiry, things that excite you about clinical and translational science. And one of those areas is our voucher program. So our voucher program, together with access to actual CCTS cores like biomedical informatics, study design through biostatistics, and others actually facilitated. So every faculty member at The Ohio State University that's engaged in clinical and translational science has the opportunity to actually apply for a voucher through the CCTS of $3,000 per year to actually be able to leverage the cores around here to move things forward for the development of pilot data, for example, for being able to submit a research project grant, for the completion of an additional aim or maybe an exploratory area that your research showed up, or to be able to answer that somebody who reviewed your manuscript and all of a sudden wants one more experiment, wants you now to do some proteomics or something like that you didn't originally have in your plans. Since the funding of the new grant, we've had more than an additional 200 publications that have cited direct support from the CCTS, which now brings our total to well over 1,600 to 1,800 publications and over 45,000 citations. So clearly driving the field of science moving forward. Over the past year, we funded more than 30 new teams under our pilot programs under 7 different pilot initiatives, and you'll hear again at 11:15 about a new pilot initiative that's directly focused on artificial intelligence and machine learning that I hope all of you will submit a letter of intent to and become active with. And then we have career development support, and over 11 faculty now have joined the 36 previous faculty who are KL2 scholars within the CCTS, an additional 7 pre- and postdoctoral trainees. are developing careers and learning the foundation of translational science. And certainly workshops, just in 2019, have had more than 600 people across the university attend. And towards the end of the day, we'll talk to you about several new workshops, including one that we're doing together with Technology Commercialization Office to really spur on innovation and entrepreneurship. But I think one of the most exciting things that we do is really in driving and enhancing trajectories and opportunities in new scientific initiatives. And we really do that kind of through a 4-step process in thinking things through. So we try to convene together a group of individuals to start to think about what might be an exciting opportunity that really leverages unique strengths at the university that we can pull together, not individuals in a single department, but to think broadly, bringing people together across multiple different colleges together to address major scientific areas. We then connect them together in meetings such as this in order to be able to start to percolate. So kind of that concept of stone soup, right? That you begin to bring together the components that becomes that secret sauce of interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary science. We catalyze the activities by actually offer pilots and other things to be able to move forward new teams to start to develop new methodologies, be able to apply those methodologies to other scientific questions, and allow this to move forward on a pathway of sustainable research, and then create enabling technologies that are shared that allow the field to begin to move forward, and that can be accessed by the broader scientific community, including your trainees, your graduate students, postdoctoral students, and other collaborators across. We started this in the past with comparative effectiveness research in our very first CCTS meeting. We flew forward to it in therapeutics development and the use of comparative translational animal models. Last year we brought together with the state and talked about teaming up to address some of the greatest state health priorities. And in this year, we're really tackling, I think, one of the incredible opportunities that we now have, which is how do we actually work with the massive amounts of big data that we now have to be able to get meaningful insights into human health. So one of the opportunities over the last decade has been that ability to go from relatively small science to big science. And as our computational approaches improve, as our ability to reach out to larger and larger populations, as multidimensional data, including things like the Human Genome Projects and omics, all the way to the biosensors and environmental sensors that we can collect for data, we're beginning now to have the opportunity to probe things in ways that we weren't able to do before. And so the ultimate goal of this is to take that data, move it forward to creating information that ultimately spurs on the creation of knowledge. And with time, and as we actually validate that knowledge, it becomes wisdom and ultimately changes the way that we approach health. And one of the opportunities to do this is to use new approaches. And I think that I'm certainly speaking to the choir here, is that AI isn't new. Artificial intelligence has been around now for certainly well over a decade, which is really harnessing the techniques and approaches using computers to actually more rapidly mimic human intelligence and to be able to start to create some meaning out of data. But that one can now build upon that and look at subsets of that data in ways for machine learning, and more importantly, where one begins now to use the machine to actually look for patterns and to be able to learn from data all the way to deep learning. And so what you're going to see over the course of the day is a number of different speakers, presentations, posters, and opportunities to think of how is this being applied, not only here at The Ohio State University and at Nationwide Children's, but what are some of the forefronts of AI and machine learning that we can take away, that we can think about applying to the questions that are the most meaningful to us, to our state, to our nation, and globally, and how can we contribute to that area. I think we're incredibly excited about the program we have for you today, and certainly I encourage you to be actively involved, engaged, ask questions, network, and talk to people. Our keynote speaker is Dr. Christopher Austin, who is the Institute Director for the National Center for Advancing Translational Science, who's really going to help to put in perspective where AI and machine learning and other initiatives at the NIH are actually working together to catalyze translational science innovation. And hopefully you'll get some insight into new areas, some funding opportunities, and some collaborative opportunities to actually work with intramural programs and other groups around the nation to actually move this thing forward. And part of that is that ability then to convene and connect together with institutions broadly across this country and globally to think about how we answer this. In our catalyzing of the activities today, we're going to talk to you further about the pilot funding mechanisms that are available for you to bring together new teams of investigators. So again, taking the opportunity to meet individuals here, to think about bringing together clinicians, public health individuals, basic scientists, computer scientists, biostatisticians, and computational biologists to think about that. And we'll give you additional information regarding how you access vouchers or apply for the pilot programs to support that. And then over the next several months, you'll see additional information about tools that are actually going to be widely available to you to help to support these efforts, including tools that help you develop and find the expertise that's necessary to move forward your team science, AI toolkits, really leveraging things that are in multiple departments across, but bringing them together in a central repository so they're actually findable. And importantly, we know there's a tremendous amount of very high quality data, including electronic health record and other data here at The Ohio State University. We're currently actively involved in developing a shareable repository for that data. So basically a data enclave that will actually facilitate your access to data that will allow you to be effective. As I said, our program today, our keynote speaker is Dr. Christopher Austin from the National Center for Advancing Translational Science, but we also have a series of plenary talks from experts across the United States who are going to show you some of the areas where their own research has moved forward with application of AI and machine learning to look at ways, for example, to monitor mental health and performance, to look more deeply at genomics and phenotyping, and microelectronics together with AI. But we also think about the human side of this. What are the ethics associated with use of artificial intelligence? What are the things that we need to think about as we apply this in order to make sure that not only do we do rigorous science, but we do science that, in fact, is the most ethical and appropriate science in order to move forward. We invite you to go to the poster presentations this afternoon and spend time actually engaging with scientists across Ohio State and nationwide to see the types of activities that are moving forward, as well as to hear 3 invited oral presentations about activities that are ongoing. and then have an opportunity over lunch for facilitated table discussions around different topics. And so please find one of those rooms, go to them, be actively engaged. They're really there to start conversations, to find ways to move forward. This certainly doesn't cover all of the areas. They're just some of those that were brought forward to us as of areas of great interest, where we can begin to develop kind of communities of practice or communities of inquiry that might work together with all of this. I'd like to finish with what I think is critical for us to think about today, and that's, of course, the first step is working together as a team. So this meeting really, I think, very much embodies what Henry Ford said so eloquently in the past, and I always use for my final slide when I talk. Coming to this meeting, engaging today with your fellow scientists, coming together is a beginning. Keeping together is progress. So developing those collaborations to start to move forward that can begin to advance science. But ultimately, working together is success. I hope you have a wonderful day. Take great advantage of the opportunities that are here to move forward your own kind of ideas. Reach out to any of us for the CCTS if you have questions. Thank you so much, and go Bucks, beat Wisconsin.